Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world today. We're getting our Final Fantasy XIV stream going today. We left off in the great work. We have to go visit Varshan, it sounds like, over at Radzit Han. So we'll get started on that today. And good morning, Legend. Good to see you. Alright, and I think we just have to ride on over to where we were headed here. Let's see, get our bearings here. Yeah, back up this way. So how's everybody doing this morning? I hope you're doing alright. Let us know down in the chat. Got anything you want to say? Anything you want to talk about? Or just general status? We'd love to hear from you. Of course, if you'd just rather lurk and enjoy the atmosphere in the game with us, that's fine. We're just happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Listening to the peaceful music. Oh, there's... Who's that? Elon. Okay, well, let's stay away from Elon then. Yep, we're going. All present? Then let us proceed. Owing to the threat of the tower, the city is currently in a state of high alert, and strict restrictions are in place for entry. Though you have been granted special permission, I ask that you remain close to me at all times.
A vast rock squats upon Favnir, and to its stony surface clings the city of Radzit Han. Ye who enter here are subject to the scrutiny of gods, the gate's most watchful eye. The orb which beholdeth the truth of all things. Pass beneath its hot and piercing gaze, bearing down like a second midday sun. The fragrant haze, a mixture of sweet incense and acrid smoke. The cries of merchants mingled here with lively melodies accented by dancers' feet. Travelers seduced by vivid sound and colors were once swallowed up by patchwork streets. But no such scenes to savor now. To what somber present does that divine eye bear witness?
Here we are, Megadota. It seems a shame to bring you here directly. Under normal circumstances, it would have been my pleasure to show you the sights.
And it would have been our pleasure to see them. Alas, it seems our tour of the city will have to wait.
I'm afraid so. Come, we should head inside. Your Excellency, may I present our honored visitors?
Ah, splendid. Most splendid. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Ahawan, satrap of Radzatan. Our alchemists tell me your assistance was invaluable in the creation of the warding scale. Such deeds ought to be recognized in person. Thus did I have young Varshan convey you here forthwith. On behalf of my people, may I express to you our sincere gratitude.
Not everything went to plan.
I assume you speak of Nidana. A regrettable incident indeed. Her colleagues insist that we honor her wishes and trust in the talisman, that it will be instrumental in saving Nidana and the others. I am eager to hear your opinion on the matter, so let us not stand on ceremony. Come, sit.
I think not. This charade has gone on long enough. Show yourself.
Forgive me, but were you expecting musicians, perhaps? There are no performers waiting in the wings at present, but arrangements could be made if you'd prefer.
Nay, he hath the right of it. The time for artifice is past. Raise the curtain.
As you wish.
You travel as assistants to the students of Valdesian, but you are known to me. Even here have we heard of the scions of the Seventh Dawn. I am Vritra, and for years uncounted hath this isle served as mine abode.
Vritra, of the First Brood, sibling to Hraesvelga and Nidhogg.
Aye, mine elder brothers, of Midgard Sorma's spawn, I was last to hatch.
Well, isn't this a surprise? We were told Radzat Han had an alliance with a dragon. Not that a great worm sat in the Satrap's own hall.
A necessary subterfuge, as the true tale of our nation history illustrates most effectively. In the beginning, the rock upon which our city is built was home to Vitra, and Vitra alone. In time, the ancestors of the Matanga came to the island and established a foothold. But next to arrive were the Aura. Adopting the example of their Akasodra allies, they too treated Vitra with reverence and respect. And for many years, an understanding between our forefathers and the Great Worm endured. Until marauding heroes from the mainland came, threatening to shatter our peace and tranquility. When it seemed all would be drowned in blood, Vitra himself came forth and quelled the rising conflict. A peaceful accord was reached, and oaths sworn in Vitra's name. Thus began the dragon's governance of the fledgling state, which was to grow into Radzat Han.
Hey, Attack Chicken, welcome. Good to see you here. How are you doing today?
But if Vritra is still here, then your position as Satrap is just...
A charade, yes. And one which my family has performed faithfully for generations.
Many envy the great worms their power. Were it known that I ruled here, then the fires of war would burn without end. I would not be the flame which consumeth my people. Those few who join me in laying our country's foundations were, perforce, sworn to secrecy.
Your eye. It was taken.
'Tis here, buried within a semblance of flesh. The body before thee is but a simulacrum, constructed by the finest artisans of Radzat Han. With mine eye nestled within, it doth serve as an inconspicuous vessel for my will.
That would explain why I felt the presence of a dragon upon our first meeting.
I am woven with words fashioned to deceive such arcane senses. Though 'twas short-lived, it seemeth thy fusion with my brother hath left thee much altered, Estinian warm blood. From the very first, we sensed the nature of one another, yet did neither one of us bare his fangs. That is all I need know of thee for now.
With my secret thus revealed, I have for you a proposal. Not as a worm of the first brood, but as the ruler of Rad's With all haste must we take in hand the finished talismans and breach this foul spire. Thence, should it lay within our power, dispel its wicked influence. Yet even with the assurance of the warding scales, the narrow confines of the tower doth limit the size of our force.
And thus denied strength in numbers, thou must choose thy soldiers with care.
Just so. Yet though our radiant host is formidable, I see a surer path before me. Thou and thy comrades have contended with a multitude of primal beings. Most recently, thou didst cast down false gods in Pagalthan and Cartanau, I am told.
Oh yeah, this next dungeon really threw me for a loop, that's for sure. It is better, better with the AI, unless everybody knows how to handle that last boss, I think, and I certainly don't know how to handle it, so it's tricky for me for sure. And that's the only part that really gets me, is trying to get through that last boss okay.
'Tis upon that strength I would call. The Scions have proven themselves the most capable, and I ask that you serve as the tip of our spear. Talismans would, of course, be provided for each of thy companions. And should you agree to this undertaking, more will be provided to make use of as you see fit.
There's no denying it's a dangerous proposition, but the rewards may far outweigh the risk. Just think of what we might accomplish if we could equip all our allies with warding scales. I worry, however, that even the four of us may be too few for what you have in mind.
'Tis no trifling task that I have laid before you. Go, steel your hearts and hone your plans. Such time as you require shall be spent in crafting your protective charms.
It seems a quick trip back to Charlian is in order.
Wilt thou not lend thine aid?
Whether your request be made as a great worm or the ruler of Rad's at Han, I see no reason to refuse, nor will I.
I am in thy debt.
All right, well that was quite an introduction to the Radz at Han there. That meeting took a rather unexpected turn, but we now have a clear objective ahead of us. Let us rejoin our comrades in Charlian and muster a suitable crew for our foray into the Tower of Zot. Oh, and if you haven't already done so, be sure to attune to the Aetheryte here before departing, unless of course you enjoy violent nausea, which I don't. All right, we'll finally finish the two branches, the two main quest branches, and they'll come back together now. See nothing new in here right now. Just as I was getting used to balmy Thavnair, we're back in chilly Sharlayan. Take care not to catch your death, eh? We need you for the battles to come. Now then, everyone appears to be here, so let us take stock of all the developments and discoveries. Since there has been progress in both investigations, shall we share the findings from our respective locales?
Your time in Thavnair has certainly been eventful. In my opinion, carrying out Vitra's request and assaulting the Tower of Zot should be our highest priority.
I agree. While I still have questions concerning the Forum and their grand undertaking, we have all but exhausted our avenues of investigation. Simply pressing them any harder on the subject will almost certainly result in our expulsion. Therefore, I suggest we explore the ethereal sea connection by way of a letter to Master Matoya, then make our way to Thavnair.
I wonder, even with the protection these talismans afford us, what can we hope to achieve once inside the tower? According to Orenvold and Fodola's report, they were unable to free the Emolja. Worse, their attempts triggered the tower's defenses, which led to a summoning of Luna Ifrit.
What does it tell us that the Spires even have such defenses? Simply pulling a prisoner from the wall is fatal. Thus the direct approach is doomed to failure from the outset. Any further measures to dissuade such actions seem unnecessary. Unless, of course, there is a way to free the prisoners without killing them. Then it stands to reason that any intruders will be met with overwhelming force.
The towers appeared throughout the world in but the twinkling of an eye. 'Twas by magical means these structures were raised, I surmise. A spire thus conjured must needs be maintained, and I suspect an arcane catalyst, some manner of core, doth lie hidden within. Destroy the core, and the tower ceaseth to be, thus liberating the captives without harm.
So we can hope, and I would prefer to enter the tower with a working theory than with no plan at all.
Assuming Ishtola's reasoning is correct, the chances of the defenses remaining dormant are small to none. Any primals will have to be dealt with, and defeating one will likely only lead to the summoning of another.
May we not then divide our forces? Those proficient in healing will focus on sustaining the captives. That duty can be covered by Urianger, Kryl, Yostola, and myself. The remaining scions will proceed with the search for the core. Admittedly, this strategy puts both parties at greater risk, but it should bolster our chances of saving the Arcosodora by a considerable margin.
What of Alice? She knows a healing spell or two.
That she does. But I think Alize herself would assert that she's at her best when she's charging onto the breach. And from what I recall from the Grand Cosmos, there's a spring in her step when she fights by your side.
Ye gods, will you never let me hear the end of that? Rest assured that I will do what is asked of me, regardless of who I happen to be standing next to at any given time. It seems we have a plan. All that remains is to carry it out. I will inform Rads at Han of our movements, so let us make our preparations and regroup near the tower.
The military post in what's left of the Hamsa hatchery should serve as a convenient staging point.
That sounds perfect. And remember, the experimental aetherite at the confluence is there for those who need it, so there's no excuse for being late.
All right, here we go. Let's get over there and do this. Hop on the bird and get going. Ah, our friend of Eorzea. We've been expecting you. You and yours will lead the mission into the tower, I'm told. The warding scales will be delivered soon. Till then, please stand by at the boat we have readied. When your fellows arrive, I will direct them to join you. We pray for your safety and success. Waiting, waiting, waiting. If this is the future of aetherite travel, I think I'll stick to boats. Aye, no warning, however emphatic, could have prepared me for that. On account of which, we are a little late, but fighting fit, mostly. My friends, permit me to thank you for accepting this mission. You must be... we should still call you Varshan, I suppose? Indeed, it would not do to confuse our soldiers. Very well then. For our part, we are humbled that you should see fit to entrust us with your warding scales. Please convey as much to His Excellency. One for each of you. Please accept them with my blessings. our thanks. With these, we can go anywhere those with the blessing of light can go. Not only for this operation either, but all the ones to come. We can finally break your monopoly on primals. I've been waiting for this day. So have we, my friend. So have we. If everyone is amenable to it, let us review the strategy for good measure. As previously agreed, we will divide into 2 groups. Anne and her band will break through the tower's defenses and locate its core. Meanwhile, the rest of us will tend to the prisoners who will doubtless want for healing due to the duress of repeated summonings. The primals which the tower bringeth forth shall be deities of Thavnarian myth. As we have no prior experience with such foes, pray exercise the utmost caution when confronting them. We commence the operation at your word, my friend. For the people of Thavnir, nay, the entire world, we must prevail. Yay, Tower of Zot. Alright, let's see. Let's go to support. Tower of Zot. And let's see who we can swap out. Oh, I have to use Alpha. No. I'll use Estinian though, I think.
Right then.
Yep. Let's go.
You're mine! There!
Underestimate me!
Yikes. Uh-oh. That hurt.
All or nothing!
Awesome. The Helm of Bending. Alrighty. Oh, I gotta remember, I've got Peloton I can put on everybody here. And I'm probably forgetting some skills I should be using with Dancer here too. I'll have to get back into that.
You underestimate me!
Prepare yourself!
This will hurt.
You cannot stop us!
Amulet of Slaying, that'll be good for Reaper. Ooh, choker of aiming. That must not be any better. Let's see, what do we got? 520. It's 530, that's right. I picked up some Crypt Lurker stuff, didn't I? So all my accessories are 530 then. Alright. For Dancer, anyways. Oh, here we go, another one. Okay.
Try and stop me!
Get out of that.
You underestimate me!
Sorry, Stinson. That was, you got your clothes there for a moment. Alright. Looks like this one here. That should be it. Yep. And pending. Yeah.
You're mine!
You're mine! You underestimate me!
Oh, thank you for the hydrate. I was trying to remember what that bloop bloop was supposed to be for there. That's right. Time to drink something. Yeah, I'm not missing a chest, am I? No. All right. There. Oh, there's one up here. another joker of aiming. Go figure. Getting there. Slowly but surely. Actually, not so slowly. We're making pretty good time here, I guess.
You're mine!
No matter the cost, we must protect the tower. The Harbingers elect, the Magus Sisters, or Magus Sisters. Oh yeah, prepare for a lot of dodging, that's for sure. Here they come.
You cannot stop us!
Alright, get that one down. Yeah, there's one. of that one, did I? Oh well. And we're done, finally. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. So many AoEs, I know. This is so crazy. It looked like I picked up something, some piece of gear too. Sabatons of aiming. They went to my armory chest. Yeah, we can put those on. Cool. What are we? Average eye level 522 now. Oh, I get a wind up Magus Sisters. All right. Looks like one of the weapons went to my inventory. I better free up some armory chest here. A bunch of tools here. Yeah, just hang tight, Thancred, Alphino, Estinian. I'm going to do some work here. It's out of tune with the game, it sounds like. Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. Alright, put that back in there, resort, and we're good to go, I think.
Is everyone all right?
We fortified the captives with what magics we could. Have the defenses been disabled? All appears quiet for the moment.
The lower floors were disturbing enough, but this place feels wrong. The ether is heavy and thick, like wading through a quagmire.
I believe we stand in the tower's beating heart. What sayest thou, Ishtola?
I see it. Ether siphoned from the land runs up through the spire, flowing to a single point. This is the core we seek. Yet something is off. As large as this structure is, it siphons far more ether than is required to sustain it. 'Tis as if the core is feeding on the energy, consuming it. I need to take a closer look. Curious. There is something there embedded inside the core. A man's limb.
This is what we came to destroy?
Yes, if you would be so kind.
And that should be the end of it.
What now?
My theory that the tower might come crashing down following the core's destruction doth appear to be correct.
Bully for you! And how are we supposed to survive the fall?
Run?
What of the prisoners below?
The floor beneath our very feet dissolves. Brace yourselves!
I pray I'm not too late.
Ugh. Got sand in all the wrong places, I think.
Oh, what happened? Where are we?
By my reckoning, we're still on the island where the tower stood. But 'tis as if it never existed. Hardly a scratch. But how?
Graha wove a levitation spell at the last moment. Large enough to catch everyone, it would seem.
Raha, you're all right, buddy.
That explains the lack of obvious injuries.
The expenditure of so much ether has taken its toll. He will need plenty of rest, but should otherwise be none the worse for wear.
Then the immediate problem is what to do with our new friends here. They'll be much changed for their time in the tower. Even if their bodies are intact, I doubt we could say the same for their minds.
Angelo and I will take care of that.
I have every faith in you, Alize, but there are just too many for you to treat alone.
We'll send at once to Eorzea for more Porxies, and call on the local mages to lend a hand.
Hail, Scions! We were watching the tower when it simply disappeared. What happened here?
The threat is banished, and thy people delivered. They are, however, in need of treatment, and we of a secure locale and helping hands to assist us in its provision.
You shall have all this and more. Come, let us convey these unfortunate souls to the city.
The liberated prisoners are being transported to Radzithan for treatment. Alisei and Ishtola will oversee the administration of the tempering treatment with support from those who know a healing spell or two. We'll go and join them in the city once you've had a moment to catch your breath. Sounds like a plan. Had enough rest, have you? You never were one for being idle. Right. Varshan bade us come to Megaduda at our earliest convenience. The others will join us there once they have finished tending to the prisoners. Ah, wait. On second thought, you and Estinian should go on ahead. I need to make a quick detour by the Great Work. We left Graha in the alchemist's care, you see. Best to fetch him before he's crammed into a specimen jar. Just you and me, then? The guardsman at the gate should wave us through. All right, well, we will head on over there, then. I think all the rest of the ether currents are over on the other side. Yeah, we've gotten 5 so far. The other 5 are probably down in the next area. Yeah, let's try a face. That's an idea. Ought to have some popcorn to eat while playing the game sometimes. But that would probably just get my keyboard and controller all messed up. Having to wipe my fingers all the time. Ah, honored scions, you are free to enter at your leisure. As I cannot leave my post, I'm afraid you must make your own way. Should you require directions in the city, the sentry stationed at the fountain atop the steps should be glad to assist you. Though I have been to Radzithan before, this place is a veritable maze. Rather than risk getting lost, we had best ask for directions from this sentry at the fountain. Lead the way, and don't expect me to act as your tour guide like certain others. And he's accompanying us now. All right. Ah, Mistress Anne, I presume. I understand you are here for an audience with the satrap. If you require directions to Megaduda, I should be glad to provide them. The satrap's residence is situated in Dharma, the highest part of Radzathan. To get there, I would ordinarily recommend a route that takes you by the bazaars in the city's north. Due to the state of alert, however, most businesses are currently closed and the Aetherite disabled. As such, I will provide you with an alternate path. First, please ascend the steps next to this fountain, then continue left. There will be more steps, and upon ascending them, you will emerge on Aksa's path. Proceed through the large door on the right, and you will arrive at Ruveda Fibers. Within, you will find another sentry who will give you further guidance. In other words, we head up. Sounds straightforward enough? And just like Yulmore in the last one, we can come here and wander around, but the main Aetherite is not available. Kind of a theme these past two expansions, it looks like. Yeah, we won't bother going down there with Justinian. Check out that side dialogue there. Heading to Megaduda, are you? In that case, please follow this hallway to my right and go through the door at the top of the stairs. You'll emerge at the entrance to the airship landing, where another sentry should be on hand to assist you. Incidentally, if you ascend the steps to either side of me, you'll find the workshops of Ruveda Fibers. Though you're free to observe the artisans, take care not to lose your way. Thanks for the notice. Maybe I'll run up here and check what Justinian says in here. Discuss the vibrant textures, huh? Ah, Thavnarian weave. Hard to imagine more vibrant stuff. I dare say Emmerich would be partial to the gold thread. And the blue, of course. He loves his blue. I've never put much thought into what I wear. A spare set of clothing is usually all I carry, and if that isn't enough, I can always obtain something locally. Oops. And I went and did it, didn't I? Got myself lost there. Here we go. If you are here for an airship, I'm afraid all flights have been suspended until further notice. So the state of alert is still in effect. Perhaps it's for the best. That aside, we're not here for an airship. We have business at Megaduda. Oh, in that case, permit me to direct you. From here, it's quite simple, really. Ascend these steps and then continue straight ahead and across the bridge. You cannot miss it. Thanks for your help, Vigilant Gradient. Boy, we hop up there. Well, I don't know how to get up there. I guess up this way. Whoops. Went a little too far on that one. Oh, screw it. I'm not going to bother with that right now. Later, perhaps, when we're got more time. Ah, I remember passing by here with Varshan. The situation being as it was, he regretted not being able to show us the sights. Life has yet to return to normal here, but when it does, you ought to pay another visit. Though the city is confusing, the food is quite good. I'm partial to hamsa myself. The meat's surprisingly tender and flavorful. Greetings and welcome to Megaduda. May I inquire after your business? We are members of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, come at the invitation of His Excellency. Ah, of course, we have been expecting you. I will show you into the audience chamber if you would please follow me.
Are we the last to arrive? I hope we've not kept you waiting.
Not at all. Your comrade is feeling better, I trust.
Much better, thank you. Harness remedies are certainly potent, in more ways than one.
One becomes accustomed to the taste, although I hope you never have cause to do so. Pray, take your ease.
Full glad I am to see you all unharmed.
Valiant scions, for your heroism, you have my boundless gratitude. You cast down that dire tower and set free its hapless captives. You cleanse their souls of its corrupting influence. No words of thanks will suffice. In place of platitudes, I offer a bounty of warding scales. Pray accept your due reward, along with the goodwill of Radzathan.
Alchemists throughout the land were put to work in the forging of your talismans. The finished ones have been collected, and now await you at the High Crucible of Alchemia. Present this letter when you are ready to take them into your possession.
We are humbled by your generosity. Know that the inventive wisdom of Radzathan will be vital in restoring serenity to our star.
Every single one of those scales came from you, didn't they? You must still be in such pain.
'Tis of no moment. A mere annoyance compared to the dreadful suffering inflicted upon this land and its people.
Albeit brief, my involvement in the Dragonsong War afforded me a glimpse of the myriad sorrows which consumed both dragon and man. Though you were half a world away, Such tragedies as befell your kin must have affected you deeply. And yet, you chose to live among men.
In the age when that conflict first bloomed, my choice had already been made. In some distant place, man slew dragon, and dragon slaughtered man. Yet no hate could I muster for those smiling faces which did look to me for guidance. Not even my brother's righteous rage could rally me to his cause. I huddled here, secret and still, hoping against hope that which I had built would remain untouched by the chaos and carnage.
'Twould seem we share the same desire for peace, great Vritra. To that end, I wonder if we might trouble you with another question. The Telophoroi are intent on recreating the final days, an apocalyptic event which we know to predate the sundering of the star. As the longest lived among us, know you aught of this terrible cataclysm?
Nay. When war and strife drove my sire from his home, he crossed the great expanse with only our unhatched eggs as company. He alighted upon a shattered source, its 13 reflections long since scattered beyond the rift. Of events preceding his arrival, he knoweth naught, save that which Hydralin hath deigned to disclose.
I see. So again, 'tis the inscrutable Hydaelyn to whom you must look for answers.
Seek you to divine the will of this star? If so, I have a tale which may afford you some small comfort. 'Tis a story from my youth, many, many years ago. To my sire, I once posed the question, of all the stars in the sky, why didst thou settle upon this one? To which Midgardsormr did reply, 'twas the last bastion of hope. He believed so long as Hydaelyn endured, so too might dragonkind. Solemn and portentous were his words. What deeper meaning they held, I could not, dared not pursue. Yet take you solace in the knowledge that whatsoever Hydralin does strive towards, 'tis an ideal which hath earned my sire's conviction.
Thank you, Vritra. You've given us warm reassurance in a world gripped by cold uncertainty.
While I'm sure we all have a great many questions, I think it's time we collect the talismans and be on our way. Our fight against the Telophoroi is far from finished.
We must take our leave, but please do inform us if we can provide any further assistance.
Prithee, a moment. There is one whom my sire hath judged worthy of honor and respect. The one known to men as Eorzea's champion. This hero of renown and rumor, 'tis thee.
Midgardsormr and I have crossed paths, yes.
I knew it to be so. From man and dragon alike have I learned of thine exploits. 'Twas a revelation most pleasing that thou, a child of man, had gained Midgardsormr's trust. But alongside mine elation runneth a rivulet of dread. For upon thy life's reel wind too many threads of fate, power, weal enmeshed with woe. Amidst this tangled knot thou shalt know no rest. 'Tis an endless confluence of forces, a struggle without surcease. More terrible still is the attrition wrought upon thy companions, as they are swept up in the storm of thine existence. Take heart and protect them well. They will be your strength and your salvation. The hope thou wilt need come the end.
Yeah, for those we have lost and for those we can yet save.
Even cowering behind my curtain, I know the suffering of the powerful. I have watched my siblings driven mad by loss. Thus do I exhort thee to spare no effort to keep thy loved ones safe.
Apologies. We hadn't meant to interrupt.
It's just that we do have a history of suddenly collapsing, and when you didn't follow us out...
'Tis I who must apologize. I have detained your champion overlong with idle chatter. Go. At war's end, I pray I welcome thee back into my hall, where together with thy joyful comrades, you may toast your triumph.
So, what were you and Vitra talking about? Nothing. Very well, if you say so. The others have gone ahead to the High Crucible. Let's catch up to them. Ooh, I'm gonna get some bread. Ooh, awesome. The attendant was kind enough to give me directions to the High Crucible. First, let us return to the mulberry orchard. From here, we're supposed to follow the path left and past the mulberries. Where the street turns, enter the door straight ahead, then descend the steps. I thought the Crystarium was confusing, but it doesn't compare to Rods at Han. The architecture and decorations make it even harder to get your bearings. Anyway, let's see where this door takes us. Now you all go on ahead. I'm gonna run down here first. And here's the Aetheryte Plaza. So far so good, and there isn't much further to go. From here, we just need to cross to the other side of the hall, then pass through the larger of two doorways. The High Crucible lies beyond. I suspect the others have already collected the warding scales. Come, let us join them. Again, you go on ahead. I'm going to run down here first. Go ahead and grab all the Ethernet shards. So that all we'll have left is the main Aetheryte crystal whenever it becomes available. Here we go. Oh, you must be Anne. Mistress Rowena's told me all about you. Says you're quite the renowned carpenter, among other things. The name's Ophelona, by the way. The mistresses charged me with managing her Rods at Han branch. Looking forward to doing business with you. Which isn't to say I've got anything special to ask of you. All I mean is that your business is just as welcome here as it is at any other House of Splendors. Of course, I'd certainly prefer you do more of your business here than anywhere else. Esteemed clients like yourself will attract even more customers, you see. And if we keep drawing in business at a good clip, before long we'll have to rebrand as Ophenala's House of Splendors. That old witch won't know what hit her. Don't you worry about that last part. Just peruse our wares and buy something if it strikes your fancy. Alright, fair enough. I think I will run down here first. Here we go. That should be all the Ethernet shards. Yep. We're last, of course, but at least we found the place.
These are the talismans we were promised.
Yes, and I made a quick count. There are far more than we could have hoped for. Enough to outfit an entire company of soldiers, in fact. Considering the involved process, that they were able to manufacture so many in such a short span of time is nothing short of a miracle.
Once we have distributed them to our allies in Eorzea and the Far East, we'll have a fighting chance to bring down the other spires, just as we did with the Tower of Zot.
Or we could use them to invade Garlemald proper, and strike directly at the Telophoroid's base of operations. Of course, we would need to consult with various Alliance leaders before such a drastic measure could even be contemplated. To which end, I could set out forthwith and present the idea to each of our allies in person.
Pray allow me to undertake some few of those journeys. I find myself restless and in need of purposeful duties.
I can head eastward. Bosnia and Dalmasca are just a short hop from here. And Doma's shinobi network should come in handy for passing on the word.
We shall share the burden then. Meanwhile, I think it best that you and the others take the talismans back to the Baldessian Annex. We must keep them safe and secure until we've decided upon a course of action.
Please, I must speak with you.
Yay, Nidana.
Nidana? You're awake?
Yes. When I spoke with the carer at my bedside, she told me that one of the scions, a young woman, had cleansed me of the tower's corruption. It seems I'd been asleep ever since the treatment. But when I awoke and learned you were all still here, I knew I had to come.
As you said, Nidana was captured only recently. Such a brief exposure is swiftly cured, so I tended to her before we gathered at Megaduta.
And I am truly grateful that you did. I cannot thank you enough. All of you, for everything you've done. Destroying the tower, rescuing our people. You've saved Thavnair from an awful fate.
Yet who hath truly saved whom? Due in no small part to thine inspirational courage, the alchemists were successful in reproducing warding scales of proven efficacy. Replications of thy work now stand ready to travel across the seas, unto the hands of those who might wield them against this rising evil.
The talisman? Is this true? I was so groggy from sleep, I didn't even think to ask. Oh, our great work sent across the seas. It was worth it. Oh, it was all worth it.
Look at that! Its color is completely changed.
What do you have there? How unusual. I wonder if the effect is a reaction to Akasha.
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that term.
Akasha? It is one of the unseen energies defined by Harnish alchemical theory. Though a gross oversimplification, some describe it as an essence influenced by feelings.
I would say that's it then.
You imply that it is distinct from ether?
As foreign scholars often conflate the two, but we see them as separate concepts. Ether is an energy which permeates the land. It exists within animals, objects, even the air we breathe, affecting all through which it flows. Akasha, on the other hand, exists in a domain beyond our reach. A gift bestowed from on high, or torn from the heavens in some traditions. Akasha can neither be created nor destroyed. It is beyond our power to purposefully alter or manipulate. The only thing observed to influence it is an abundance of, I want to say, spiritual emotion. As a veteran of the battlefield, surely you've experienced moments of desperation or exaltation when you've transcended the usual limits of your capabilities. That is a manifestation of Akasha, the invisible essence harnessed by heart, mind, and unyielding spirit.
I really must hear more about this theory. Our disciplines are based entirely upon the idea that ether is the fundamental form of all energy.
I'm glad my haphazard explanation has piqued your interest. But even for us, Akasha is a somewhat abstract field of study. A lack of practical application lends itself poorly to formalized research. Which is why my analysis of your flower can amount to little more than idle speculation. I am sorry.
Nonsense! You have nothing to be sorry for. Your insight is much appreciated.
Shall we depart for Charlian then? I will see to it that the talismans arrive at the Annex.
And we will be in touch once our talks are concluded. I suggest you rest while you can. From here onward, sleep is bound to be in short supply.
And let's see, back to the Baldessian Annex. First, is anything new here? Let's see, doesn't look like it. It's good to be back, and with the fruit of our labors safely in storage. For now, we have but to wait for the others to return from their respective meetings with the Alliance leaders. As Thancred suggested, you should get some rest in the meantime. Welcome back, Anne. Kryl has apprised me of your recent accomplishments. What an amazing feat to eliminate a tower and pave the way to deal with the rest. While it isn't much, I've changed your sheets and plumped up your pillow. After all, there's nothing like collapsing in a nice clean bed after completing a major milestone, be it penning a thesis or defeating deiform entities. So, would you like to take a look at your new and improved lodgings now? Sure.
Take heart and protect them well.
Good, you're here. You haven't eaten yet, have you? We've bought quite a spread if you're interested. Only the finest dining from the last stand.
Lest you wonder, we invited Estinian as well. But he refused with a rather grim-faced, "No, thank you." I suspect Sharlayan cuisine is not to his liking.
Oh, I don't know about that. Perhaps our lone wolf just needed some time apart.
What? To perfect his brooding stare? Next time, I'll drag him out by the ear, sit him down in front of a Sharlayan feast, and see that he eats every last bite.
An excellent idea. Of all people, warriors must take proper meals and rest if they are to maintain a healthy constitution.
Poor Estinian, beset on all sides.
Speaking of one's physical condition, Mistress Kryl, I hear you recently played literal host to Hydaelyn herself.
And what an experience that was. Tiring, yes, but no lasting harm done. If anything, I should have liked to speak with her longer. I've not felt a hint of her presence since.
Hydaelyn instructed you to carry that flower, yes? Twill be your guide, test and proof of your conviction. And then something about seeking joy in darkness, was it? Come to think of it, isn't that what happened with Nidana back in Radzat-Han?
The flower did seem to radiate a joyful glow, as if reflecting the elation we all felt, the relief of a people with renewed hope.
Indeed, and in turn I felt buoyed by that radiance. 'Twas akin to spotting a beacon, and knowing we were on the right path. I know we've not yet triumphed over the Telophoroi, or learned the full breadth of the Forum's plans. But even within the midst of our struggles, we find small moments of joy to sustain us. Rare and hard-won, perhaps, but it is this pursuit of happiness that gives us the strength to carry on day after day. Hey, that's mine.
To the swift the spoils. Though I recall that levitation spell of yours was quick enough.
Only barely. And even at my best, I'm still too slow to wield it effectively in battle. Mayhap I simply require more practice with this new magic.
You unearthed it from the depths of Numenon, I presume?
Aye, and from a veritable mountain of arcane tomes at that. 'Twas necessary to facilitate my solitary explorations.
Or, to put it simply, you used it to sneak around the Forbidden Archives.
Yes, well, after a fashion. They're tall, you see. The shelves, they're too tall for me. And I could hardly move the library's platforms without attracting attention now, could I?
Oh!
Shall we call it a night?
One last cup of tea, then. Dickens said this brew helps relax the mind before bed. And gave us some leaves for free.
Enjoying the bracing cold, I see. Do you not own a warm coat or a cloak? Something in fur? Or fashioned from the skins of your enemies? Or... well, never mind that. I come to you once more as the bearer of bad news. Our tower in Thavnir has been toppled, and I need not tell you by whom. Given how many we have at our disposal, the loss of a single spire is hardly fatal to our plans. It does, however, slow the rate at which we siphon the ether. If they continue to preoccupy themselves with the towers, then all will be well. But should our foe prove bold enough to strike at us here, then the timing becomes... questionable.
Our foe is bold enough. Of that, I can assure you.
Yes, very well then. I suppose I must prepare a proper welcome. Honestly, Talk of your nemesis is the only thing you seem to enjoy. Does nothing else spark your interest?
No. All else is equal. Equally tedious. Equally disappointing. The world is a tepid bog into which we sink, too weak to thrash as the mud clings to our eyes and fills our throats till we blissfully choke. But then came the light, blinding and pure and hot, so very hot, enough to set my soul aflame. I basked in the afterglow, until the void yawned once more. And then I knew the muck would never claim me again. There was naught for me ahead, so I drew the curtain on all that had come before. Burn, burn, let the whole star burn. I will have my contest. I will reclaim my moment.
How wonderful that the emptiness of death has not dissuaded you from committing your life to its pursuit once more. I don't know whether to envy you or pity you.
You question my disinterest, but what of yours? Despite your noisome antics, I sense you take little pleasure in this endeavor.
Mercy, my lord. Such pointed barbs from one who barely acknowledges my existence. Nevertheless, you are mistaken. For I do find this part somewhat enjoyable. You see, when I was mortal, I would always have the same dream. It was a fragmented thing, disjointed, all the faces incomplete. The setting, too, was unknown to me, so I thought it simply a fantasy of my sleeping mind. Until one day, I realized it was showing me the truth. Much as your dream of the final days enlightened you. And soon, very soon, the rest of the world will see the truth of my dream, too. Yes, I think that is something we can both enjoy.
Well, that was quite a long cutscene. Let's see, next. There they are, right there. And what are we getting here? Oh, another weapon. Oh, there you are. Feeling refreshed, I hope. I was about to make my way to the studium as it happens. I wanted to try and speak with Scholarch Montashane and thank him for coming to our rescue in the Rostra. As it turns out, he'd come here to see us following the hearing, only to find that we'd already departed for Thavnair. Knowing him, he was probably hoping to chew the cud with his former students. Since we're still waiting for Ishtola and the others, I thought now the perfect time to pay him a visit. Here to join me? Then it's settled. The twins will be coming too, assuming Alphino can tear himself away from his new toys. I'll let you rally the troops while I go on ahead to Phenomenon. Considering my recent impropriety, perhaps I should avoid showing my face around the studium for a time. That might be for the best. If the others should return, tell them we will not be long. And still no new special quests here. Heading out for a stroll? The Skylark himself was here. In that case, what are we waiting for? I too am eager to see him, though I somewhat dread the thought of visiting the studium. I dare say our notoriety precedes us. Alphino of all people worrying over his reputation, and at our alma mater no less, will wonders never cease. You'll understand soon enough. Off we go. Here it is, Phenomenon. While I expect you made note of it before, one can hardly miss it. This is the first time you've been here on official business, correct? While most of the space is taken up by the expansive auditoriums, it also houses numerous laboratories, testing grounds for experimental magics, and a host of administrative offices and so forth. As the center of what would later become the studium, it was established to promote the study of etherological phenomena, hence the name. Though with ether being a fundamental aspect of nature, its scope expanded to include every conceivable facet of life and even the universe itself. And then, in the 432nd year of the 6th Astral Era, Phenomenon was decreed complete and the studium officially opened as a place of learning. With a long and storied history, it is without question the world's leading authority in etherology, the arcane, the occult, astromancy, and countless other fields, standing proud as Charlian's foremost educational institute. You always did enjoy giving the grand tour to new students. Indeed, I've long since lost track of how many times he has recited that same foppish speech, such as his undying love for his old stomping ground. He was in top form back then, youngest to enter the studium, graduated with highest honors in magical arts and etherology, undisputed champion of the debating chamber. Hold on, you both joined the studium at the same age, yes? And from where I stand, you're equally prodigious scholars. Nice of you to say, but Alphino actually entered half a year before me, nor did I do well enough to graduate with honors. And I am certainly not the studium's most notorious master debater. In all respects have I ever been in his shadow. If nothing else, just remember that this was where the legend of Alphino Levadur began. We should expect everyone to be fully aware of our recent escapades. Hopefully, we'll be somewhat more welcome here than we were at the last stand. I know better than anyone the adoration the student body has for Alphino, and with a bit of luck, it might work to our advantage. Sounds good. Well, there's no time like the present. First things first, let's look for Skylark Monteshane. Other faculty tend to frequent their offices, but unfortunately for us, he's fond of wandering wheresoever his whims take him. Let's split up and ask the students if they've seen him. Hello, excitable student. That was Alphino Levier, wasn't it? The Alphino Levier. And he's with his sister and Master Baldessian's granddaughter. This can only mean one thing. An event of epic shattering proportions is fast approaching. Spread the word. Oh, sorry. You said you're looking for the Scholarch, yes? Knowing him, he could be anywhere, but Miss Aliapo should have a better idea. Are you lost? Wandering off the streets, perhaps? Wait, don't tell me. You're a trainee gleaner fresh off the guild ship. I'm right, aren't I? Oh, how silly of me. An orientation is in order. Allow me to bid you a warm welcome to Searcher's Meet. Let me start with a question. What is the most important thing you'll find in the studium? That's right, books. And what's the second most important? Why, that's simple. Everything else. That's what we deal in here at Searcher's Meet. Whenever the students or tutors find themselves in need of equipment or materials, they come to us. If we don't have it in our stores, we send the gleaners off to find it. Honestly, you wouldn't believe some of the requests we get. Eye of Pisa, this, tongue of Gigantoad that. It's enough to make your hair stand on end, which is possibly what some of our students are trying to accomplish, this being a school of magic and all. As our newest gleaner, you'll have your work cut out for you, but I think you'll find it quite rewarding. I've tracked down many miscellaneous knickknacks in my time, but I'm no gleaner. So what you're telling me is, you're not a gleaner? Yes, that's exactly what you said, isn't it? And you're looking for a Scholarch. I'm afraid we don't have any of those in stock, but I can't... Oh, you mean him. He was here, but now he's not. I did speak with him shortly before you arrived, though. He said he was on his way to Maker's Meet. Go back the way you came in and you'll see it on the opposite side of the entrance. It's a laboratory of sorts, home to many rare and expensive curios, not to mention alarmingly frequent accidents. If you lose your way, just follow the blood-curdling screams. Well, that sounds reassuring. Ha! In the meantime, or in the time it's taken me to tell you all of this, the Scholarch has probably already left. Best of luck finding him. I have a feeling you'll need it. All right. There's that tree I saw in the cutscene back over there. Hello, level-headed student. Yes, the Scholarch was here a short while ago. He offered me advice on my current research project. Though we spoke at length, I don't recall him mentioning where he was planning to go next. When we parted ways, he went down the corridor, perhaps to one of the auditoriums. That's fine. My quest pointer will help me find him, no problem.
Ah, I remember you.
I pray we have not caught you at an inopportune moment. We wanted to offer our thanks for your kind words in the forum.
Well, I could hardly let that inquisition go unchallenged. I've always believed that curiosity should be nurtured, not stifled. Thankfully, a majority of my colleagues agreed. A slender majority, aye, but a majority nonetheless.
Had the vote not gone our way, we would be having a very different conversation, if any at all. Though I'd like to think you would have not given up on our cause. I'm told you paid a visit to the Annex afterwards.
Yes, that's right. I was hoping to speak with the grandchildren of my dearly departed friends Galuf and Louisoix in a less dour setting. But it seems I just missed you.
Yeah, good old Galuf. Yeah, from, what was it, Final Fantasy 5? I think 5 or 6. I think 5, maybe.
I still can't believe how much you've grown. If only your grandsires could have seen the way you presented yourselves to the Forum. Why, it fair brought a tear to my own eye. You must have the patience of a saint, putting up with this lot and their antics. Never mind Matoya's prize student. Luckily, I know a thing or two about managing unruly younglings. If you ever need advice, don't hesitate to ask.
If I may, there is a rather more pressing matter we wish to discuss. What can you tell us of this duty that the Forum must fulfill?
Nothing, I'm afraid. Like all humble servants of the Forum, I am sworn to secrecy. Or rather, I couldn't tell you if I tried. Our duty is of the gravest importance. Furthermore, if the particulars were made public, it would incite widespread panic. As such, those entrusted with this duty have been bound by an enchantment, which prevents us from speaking of such matters without the express permission of the Forum.
How is that even possible?
It's been some time since I last gave a lecture. Please, take a seat. We shall begin by reviewing the fundamentals of etherology. The ether, which imbues us with life, can be categorized into 3 forms. 2 are of the incorporeal sort, the soul, and the memory. Can anyone tell me the third?
Magic.
Not entirely inaccurate, but nor is it the answer I was looking for. That would be corporeal ether. This is the form with which the layman is most familiar. Consumed by even the simplest of daily activities, and replenished by the food and drink that sustain us, this form of ether is in constant flux. In contrast, the ether that comprises the soul is rarely subject to dramatic change. The same can be said for memory, as the two are intrinsically linked. Picture the soul as paper, and memories as words written upon it. Now, what would happen if that paper was doused with ink? The same type of ether as comprises the memories.
It would blot out everything that was written.
Precisely. We would be unable to recall the memories, and any activities that depend upon them would be hindered as well. In fact, this exact phenomenon was observed on a vast scale not so long ago. And what might that have been?
The seventh Umbral Calamity. The people of Eorzea vividly recall Bahamut breaking free of the Lesser Moon and raining hellfire down upon the realm. But no one could seem to remember the events that followed immediately afterwards.
Indeed. To this day, we have yet to determine whether it was an unintended consequence or a deliberate act. The enchantment which binds me and the rest of the Forum is based on a similar principle. And yes, it is a contravention of the Sharlayan prohibition against the practice of memory manipulation. Only when a new member is inducted and told of our great duty are they subjected to the process. A necessary evil. You have my word that it would never be used to manipulate the populace?
I should hope not. But can this enchantment be dispelled and your memories restored?
If 9/10 of our members give their approval, then the process may be reversed. Then, and only then, would we be able to speak freely to others of our sacred duty. Barring that, we must wait until we return to the ethereal sea. For there we will be purified, the blots upon our souls washed clean. And our memories drift apart and dissolve. Rather defeating the purpose, I suppose. But there are those memories that are indelibly etched upon our souls, some believe.
What happens after that?
We are reduced to pure ether, coalesce with that of others, and create souls anew. Alternative schools of thought assert souls remain whole and return to the corporeal world, reborn into another form. Both theories have their proponents. Personally, I consider each equally probable. Well, I think that's enough education for today, now that I've given you some food for thought. Or rather, an entire banquet. I would remind you that although I'm unable to assist you with certain matters, the resources at my disposal may still be of use to you. I'll arrange for you all to be given the run of Phenomenon. Of course, as associate to our alumni and the students of Baldessian, this privilege is extended to you as well, my friend. Oh, and I suggest you speak with Ki Aliapo. She's well known among the artisans of Sharlayan, and her network of contacts may prove useful in your search for knowledge. I wish you all the best in your pursuits, wheresoever they may take you.
Let's get that new weapon. What? Oh, well, that was a waste then. Shoot. I already have one that's higher. I should have got that for Reaper then. Silly me. Alright, there's a pewter chest gear. That's going to be an upgrade for sure, I think. Yep. Well, that's given me much to mull over. I feel as though we're one step closer to understanding the forum's true motives. And the mysteries of life itself for good measure. It's funny, I came here with the intent of expressing my gratitude, only to leave more indebted than before. I have a feeling his friendship and support will be a great boon to us in the days to come. And on that note, let's head back to the Annex. Perhaps on the way you could better acquaint yourself with Ki Aliapo and the Scholark, as the Scholark suggested, while I share our findings with Raha. It's you! You're the one the Scholark was telling us about. Anne, yes? Brilliant. Just the woman I was hoping to see. As I'm sure you are aware, the Studium is the most prestigious educational institution in all of Sharlayan. As such, we make a point of only working with the best educators and students. The gleaners we employ are also held to the same high standards, of course, which is perhaps why it has been so difficult to find the assistance we need of late. Surely you understand the trouble of finding competent and capable help. That you are come here suggests you're willing to lend a hand, no? I'm certain you would have much to gain from working with us if so. Do let me know should you commit to lending your services to the Studium. I should warn you, however, there is much I must explain ere you begin, so please be certain you have sufficient time to spare. Now, allow me to explain our work here. Professors and students from our many faculties gather in Searchers' Meet in order to do business with and recruit reputable individuals such as yourself. Allow me to briefly introduce those here at present. Here we have Boric from the Faculty of Archaeology. He works as an assistant to one Professor Rurusha and is currently seeking a skilled metalworker to help restore an ancient relic. Then there's Jude, who belongs to the Faculty of Astronomy. He seems to be looking for an artisan able to work with leather, cloth, or wood, but he wouldn't tell me much more than that. He's awfully shy, you see. Next we have Debroya, a student studying in the Faculty of Medicine. I'm fairly sure she's carrying out research under the supervision of Professor Galvaroche. In any case, I hear she's after someone who knows a thing or two about medicine and nutrition. And here's Hinageshi of the Faculty of Anthropology. She told me she's searching for botanists and miners at present. By the sounds of it, she and Professor Tankin are dealing with a formidable task. Last but not least, this is Professor Plaka Tia, an associate professor in the Faculty of Etherology. I heard he's in need of a fisher to help him conduct research for his thesis. Unfortunately, things do not seem to be progressing well for him at the moment. I'd say those 5 are the ones most in need of supplementary aid. I'll leave it to your discretion as to who you choose to help, although be forewarned, academics can be something of an odd bunch. Just be sure not to leave anyone in the lurch after you've agreed to help them. Fair enough. And we can now do studium deliveries. And we won't bother unlocking those for right now. Alright, back off to the Baldessian Annex. And the tuning is off on that. I wonder what's up with that. I might have to check that out later. See if it's I guess it's my keyboard. Ah, welcome back. From what I hear, your trip to the studio proved most educational. While you were away, I received word from our fellow Scions. As expected, news of the warding scales was met with much joy. Preparations are now underway to bring the leadership of the Grand Company of Eorzea and the Eastern Alliance together to determine a way forward. Oh, I might know what it is. Hang on a second. Yep, that is it. There we go. That was it. Yep. Our bit rate for our audio was off on the on our digital audio workstation here. That's what I kind of figured. We will save that. So next time it shouldn't be an issue. Our friends have asked that we bring the scales in our possession to Limsa Lominsa. So the time has come for us to go on the offensive. It's too early to say for certain, but that does seem to be the way the winds are blowing. I, for one, can think of no reason to oppose such a plan, but let us see what awaits us in Vilbrand. Let's start by getting the scales out of storage. Give me a hand, would you, Estinian? Phew, I didn't realize these crates were so heavy. Oh gosh, they're almost twice your size, Kryle. I shouldn't complain though. Vritra and the alchemists of the Great Work put their heart and soul into each and every one of these scales, so you must treat them with the utmost care. Are you not coming with us? As much as I would like to escape the Forum's watchful gaze, I've little choice but to stay behind. We're already on thin ice, and if I, in my capacity as our official representative, were found to be consorting with foreign powers, well, you can imagine how that would go. I shall remain here and do my utmost to avoid ruffling any more feathers as I await word from Master Matoya and our other allies. With luck, we'll soon have good news of our own to share. The tide is about to turn. I can feel it. The Limsa Lominsa. Right then, let's step outside and check for any other stuff available here. Nope. Oh, doesn't look like it. Alrighty then, let's go to Limsa Lominsa then. I was told to expect you. As you may or may not be aware, the Admiral is at present entertaining the Elder Seedseer and the Sultana. 3 of the most powerful women in the world in one room. You need a moment to prepare, or shall I show you to them? Sure, let's go on in. My apologies for calling you away from Charlian at such short notice. On the contrary, we are honored and grateful, and pleasantly surprised to be joined by such esteemed company. It was only right that this discussion be conducted in person. We are locked in a war of attrition. Our forces struggle to contain the threat posed by the towers, and it is only a matter of time before we are overwhelmed. Victory will only be claimed through decisive action, and we have taken the initiative to set the wheels in motion. It is reassuring to learn we are all in accord. But might I ask what your plan entails? It hinges entirely on the warding scales and our ability to utilize their potential to the fullest. During your time in Charlian, the Allied nations have been engaged in separate fronts, with no end in sight. To make matters worse, a surge in abductions of Kobold, Sahagin, Ixal, and Ananta have given rise to an increasing number of primals as well. But your triumph in Radzat-Han has given us cause to hope once more. The time has come to free ourselves of this menace. And it is you, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, who have shown us the way. While the bulk of our forces will continue to hold the Telophoroi at bay, we will dispatch our finest to strike at the enemy's heart, Garlemald. These brave few will be the Ilsabard contingent. To think such progress has been made in so short a span. Its objectives are twofold. The first is to provide aid to the people of Garlemald. As previously reported, countless Imperial soldiers and civilians have been tempered. Robbed of their free will, they serve the Telophoroi's every whim without question. They too are victims. It is our duty to deliver them from their suffering, not for strategic or political gain, but because it is the right thing to do. I do not ask that we set aside the decades of conflict and conquest, that we simply choose to forgive and forget. I ask only that in choosing to remember, we do not also forsake our compassion and morality, for without that, there can be no reconciliation, only death without end. Aye, on that we can all agree. Our second objective is the colossal tower that Thancred and Urianger observed in the capital. Though its purpose remains unclear, there's reason to believe the smaller spires are merely a precursor of what's yet to come. Until the Tower of Zot was toppled, we'd failed to make any headway. Though the same could be said of the Talaferoi, there's certainly in no rush to press further into our lands. I'd wager the Spire's primary purpose is to divide and keep us occupied, while they work towards our annihilation. This would appear to be substantiated by Ishtola's analysis of the tower's influence on ethereal currents. Based on her observations inside the Tower of Zot, the spires siphon ether from the land, consuming it to maintain their form. However, they draw forth far more than is required for this task alone. The excess of ether remains unaccounted for, but we can be sure it is not being harnessed for our benefit. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if it was being redirected to the larger spire in the capital. There's a logic in that. Regardless, once we have uncovered the truth, we'll bring their schemes crashing down, along with their infernal towers. That's all well and good, but what would you have us do? I assume it's more than handing over the scales and being on our way. We want you and your scales to join the Ilsabard contingent. Consider it an official request from both the Grand Company of Eorzea and the Eastern Alliance. Do you accept? Perhaps you should be the one to answer that. For the people of Garlemald. Couldn't have put it better myself. Y'shtola, Thancred, and Urianger have already pledged their support and are on their way to meet the rest of the contingent. They were positive you would come to the same decision as they did. Luckily for all involved, their prediction was correct. Once you have delivered the warding scales to Alamigo, the contingent will embark on its journey to Ilsabard. Ralban and Lord Emmerich are overseeing preparations, so I suggest you make yourselves known upon arrival. Pack warm clothing, furs and the like. Without it, the cold will do you in before the Talaferoi so much as draw steel. As for us, we'll keep the enemy busy while you're gone. They're not the only ones who can create a diversion. Now go, safe in the knowledge Eorzea will be as you left it, or better, upon your return. Off to Alamigo. Ah, the Wanderers return. You've been busy bringing down a tower and producing the keys to destroying the rest of them. You should be proud. Those warding scales of yours are what's made this whole venture possible. Will you and Lord Emmerich be leading the contingent? Regrettably, no. Our role is to organize the various delegations into a cohesive unit. Once we have seen you all off, it's back to our respective posts. We dare not neglect our duties for too long, lest our defensive efforts fall into disarray. And just between us, there was a fair amount of opposition to the formation of the Ilsabard contingent. The very suggestion that we send out some of our finest troops behind enemy lines to render aid unto the Garleans has made me rather unpopular in certain quarters. Can't please them all. Sadly not. Though I do my best. Truth be told, I'd much rather be at your side, charging into the fray. Alas, I've battles of my own to fight, where words may serve me better than any blade. I hate to say it, but Lord Emmerich's struggles mirror my own. For the time being, the best we can offer you is the peace of mind from knowing Eorzea is in safe hands. As you fight the good fight in Ilsebard, I and the other commanders will do what we can do to convince the naysayers that our cause is just. Thank you, both of you. We meet again! Word of your exploits travels quickly. From what I gather, the protective talismans you obtained led to the formation of this expeditionary force. My contribution on this occasion is but a minor one, that being the information I have shared with Maxima. For the sake of the people of Garlemald, may the fates be on your side. So, you're not coming with us. Strange. I thought you'd have a stake in this. I do. The Talaferoi have laid waste to my homeland and enslaved my people. But though every mote of my being cries for vengeance, I cannot be the one to deliver it. My presence alone would place the entire mission in jeopardy. I stand accused of murdering Emperor Varus and plunging Garlemald into chaos. Were I to travel with the Ilsebard contingent, it would give my countrymen ample cause to question our motives. Conversely, those who believe me innocent may instead celebrate the return of a former legatus and attempt to raise me to a position of leadership, further destabilizing the region and complicating the contingent's mission. Whether I am branded a villain or hailed as a hero, I would only hinder your efforts. I doubt they'll be pleased to see the champion of Eorzea set foot on Garlean soil. A fair point, but so long as you refrain from announcing your arrival to all and sundry, the average person should have no inkling as to your identity. Although your titles and deeds are common knowledge, only a select few would recognize you on sight alone. Perhaps one day they will learn that the Warrior of Light is not a demon to be feared, but a woman deserving of their trust. In light of Gaius's rather unique circumstances, I instead will assume the role of your guide. Though I may have defected for political reasons, my love for Garlemald endures. I would stop at nothing to protect her and her people. Well said. Might I ask you to escort our friends inside? You might even bump into an old acquaintance or two. And if I don't see you again ere you depart, may the Fury guide and protect you, all of you.
Such devastation! This was not my intention!
Well, what did we got? We got a chest coffer. Let's open that up. And a new coat. There we go. And a special gift. All right. The other members of the Ilsebard contingent are gathered in the royal palace. I shall inform them of your arrival, so please make your way inside as soon as you are ready. Excuse me. Ah, the remaining members of the Scions, your friends and most of the Ilsebard contingent await you within. Would you like me to see you through? Yes, please.
By the 12.
Glad you could join us. I hope you don't mind, but we went ahead and started without you.
As you can imagine, our traveling companions were eager to become acquainted. 'Tis a rare thing indeed to see such a diverse and talented group of individuals assembled for a single purpose. We fight not only for the sake of Eorzea, but for the entire world, including the people of Garlemald. Much rides on the efforts of the Ilsabard contingent.
Indeed, which is why I am glad to find myself in the company of many trusted comrades, yourselves included.
Lucia!
I have come at the behest of Lord Emmerich, who has honored me with the role of Ishgard's representative. And for the good of all nations, not least my former homeland, I am determined to see this mission through to its end. We have a hard road ahead of us, but walk it we shall, together.
We too welcome this opportunity to work together once more. I have faith that if there is a way to resolve this conflict, we will find it.
Allow me to introduce you to the rest of our company. Everyone! If I may have your attention. Might I ask you to speak first?
If I must. I am Arun Senna, spokesman for the Gridanian delegation, here on behalf of my esteemed sister, the Elder Seedseer. We shall provide support and protection to those in need during our time in Garlemald. To that end, I am joined by healers selected by the Conjurers Guild, with the Order of the Twin Adder's Finest serving as our escort.
Suppose I'd better say my piece.
Wait, I know you.
The name's Sicard, in case you've forgotten. True. Any road, the Admiral asked Captain Hilfear to send his best, and for whatever reason, he picked me. Of course, if I'd refused, I'd be the laughingstock of the bloody executioners, and my reputation's taken enough of a keyhauling as it is. But more importantly, like any pirate worth his salt, I know when you're staring down a storm, you gotta trust in the commander of your ship. So if the Admiral wants us to go to Garlemald, not for plunder and glory, but a promise of peace in our time, then that's what we'll do. Since we all know how much the Empire loves its steel, we thought we'd bring along a few smiths to make the most of it. Give them a pile of scrap and they'll cobble together anything you fancy. Of course, just like the Gridanians, we got fighters of our own. We might have come with a more constructive purpose in mind, but we're more than capable of cracking skulls, believe you me.
Well, you're certainly raring to go. But then again, so are we. The most dependable warriors of Uldar and Alamigo have assembled at the Sultana and General Aldin's behest. If Garlemald has truly fallen, then the whole place is likely to be crawling with Telophoroi. We'll need plenty of troops to clear and hold a path for others to follow. That's where we come in. Naturally, Marshal Terrapin and I will be leading from the front.
It's been some time since I last saw you in your element on the battlefield.
From what I've heard, you've become pretty fearsome yourself. Master Matoya, the Avatar of Destruction. With comrades like these, I know we'll succeed, no matter what awaits us. And then we might finally get a chance to enjoy a good long rest. But until then, let's give it our all.
As for Ishgard, we Temple Knights have come in force to uphold our nation's commitment to the peace and welfare of our allies. The bitter cold of Garlemald is a formidable enemy in of itself. Our experience fighting in ice and snow will prove invaluable in the days ahead. Accordingly, I have been designated commander of the Ilzabard contingent. I will do all in my power to provide you with the leadership and guidance you require. The four high houses, House Hylinart foremost among them, have arranged for a host of machinists to join us on our mission. Their knowledge of Imperial Magitech is sure to be a great boon. They will address any problems of a technical nature, together with the smiths of Limpsa Lomitsa. There is another awaiting introduction.
Lord Emanolain!
Ah, yes. Emanolain de Forton, at your service. Though, lest there be any misunderstanding, I should stress that I've not become a fearsome warrior while you were away. Rather, far from it, actually. My brother, in his infinite wisdom, decided this would be an excellent chance to make something of myself. Oh, and fight for world peace and all that. But, should the opportunity arise for a spot of ballroom dancing, I will be your twinkle-toed gentleman of light.
Yeah, you do that, Emanolain. May your graceful prancing lead the way to victory.
Huzzah! I cannot wait to regale Honoroa with my tales of daring do.
I believe that concludes introductions for the Grand Company of Eorzea. Our allies from the Eastern Alliance were due to arrive some time ago, but it would appear they have been delayed.
Would that be the Shinobi of Doma?
Actually, they've been tasked with relaying messages back and forth between the various Eastern nations. According to Lord Hien, however, an equally capable company of warriors has been sent in their stead.
Out of my way, you preening fool!
All right.
Forgive us for coming late. We are the delegates of the Eastern Alliance.
Cyrena, and you've brought company.
For battle and blood we come, as the steppe is sorely lacking in both. No towers befoul our lands, so we marched on those of Doma, only to find them beyond our reach. But now our thirst for slaughter will be slaked. No quarter to the enemy! Sadu Hatun, no. We go to make peace with the Iron Men, not war.
Warriors of the Steppe, we've heard many tales of your bravery. We welcome you as allies. And these other ones you have brought are...
Members of the Dalmascan resistance group, Lente's Tears.
And the Bosnian resistance. Between them, they have a wealth of experience in espionage, and are particularly adept at infiltrating Imperial facilities. Which is fortuitous, since Garlemald's domain is so vast that I could never hope to handle reconnaissance duties all by myself.
Dalmasca, Bosnia, Alamigo. All lands which have suffered the tyranny of the Empire. I would never presume to question your motives. Nevertheless, I must reiterate that our goal is to aid the victims of the Telophoroi, the common folk of Garlemald. And they are victims, make no mistake. Though I understand that many may struggle to see them as such.
You're more right than you know. For every one of us that answered the call, there were a dozen that refused. Not only in Alamigo, but everywhere we went. And who could blame them? The Empire's always been the enemy. But after seeing what we've seen, fighting and working against and with Garleans, there's no denying the simple truth. They're just people. No different from you or I. They've got their share of liars and murderers, but so do we. So do we all. Fordola, who once swore herself to Garlemald, has proven herself a trusted ally time and time again. Every Eorzean here knows Cid Garland, the Imperial defector who shared with us countless technological wonders. Maxima, who stands with us today, tried to reform Garlemald from within and make peace with Doma. So you can believe me when I say that every fighter here understands and accepts that the Imperials are not monsters and are deserving of help. Or at least that they were able to put aside their feelings for the greater good. It won't be easy, but we're all determined to make this world a better place.
What lingering concerns I may have had were clearly unwarranted. I agree with everything you said wholeheartedly.
Then we are in accord. Now, let us review our strategy. To reach the Garlean capital in northern Ilsabard, we must cross the central mountain range. Fortunately, Garland Ironworks can provide aerial transport, sparing us this most treacherous part of our journey. However, attempting to fly any closer to Garlemald would attract the attention of the Telophoroi. As they appear to have seized control of the majority of the Imperial military, we must assume that includes its fleet. In addition, Garlemald possesses devices that can interfere with airship navigational systems, further discouraging an airborne approach.
Given the circumstances, the closest we dare deploy our contingent is an area between the range and the capital, the Magna Glaciers. From there, we must travel the rest of the way on foot. We will also need to bring the airships with us to ensure we can withdraw with haste. Although much of the terrain will be blanketed in snow, we should be able to make use of local roads and shipping facilities. The vast ice field will afford us an unobstructed view of the surrounding area. On the other hand, it will also allow others to easily spot us, so it is imperative that we only make camp in positions where we can easily defend ourselves. And the airships, which must be kept safe at all costs.
We cannot account for every possibility, so we must be prepared to think on our feet. We will be tested. Sorely tested, I expect. But for our homes and for our people, and a people not our own but in need, we will succeed. Spare no effort in your preparations. Once we depart, there is no turning back.
Besides the delegates assembled here, the Amalja and several other tribes offered to send troops of their own. Unfortunately, due to their physiology, many would struggle simply to survive in the harsh climate of Ilsabard. They would also likely prove tempting targets for abduction by the Telophoroi. All things considered, they can better aid the cause by bolstering our defenses in Eorzea. though their eagerness to do more has been noted. We few shall have to suffice. Ere we embark, we must distribute the warding scales to our comrades. Here to do the honors? Warding scales for the Ishgardian delegation, I take it. Indeed. Many thanks. These talismans may prove to be the deciding factor in the battles to come. I find myself conflicted by this foray into Garlemald, sent by the Empire to infiltrate Ishgard only to throw in my lot with those whose secrets I was supposed to be stealing. And now I lead a mission to save the countrymen I betrayed. But that is doubtless why I was chosen by Lord Emmerich. He would have me put my extensive knowledge and former ties to good use. I will not disappoint him. For the future of Ishgard, Garlemald, and the world at large, I will lead us to victory. That a set of warding scales I spy. Not that I would know what they look like. Wow, look at these! Even a layman like me can tell they're bursting with ether. All the better to fend off the tempering waves, is that the right term? Anyway, these will give us one less thing to worry about, which just leaves the other mountain of whatever else is waiting for us in Garlemald. Only one way to find out, eh? And nervous or not, I'd march through all 7 hells if it gave me a chance to put Xenos back in the grave where he belongs. I hear you've got something for us. Yep, here they are. Ah, them scales everyone's been talking about. Pretty little things, ain't they? Reckon they'll be worth a gill or two when this is all over, but we'll hold on to them for now. And one more thing. I know what you're all thinking. Why didn't they send Einzar instead? Buggered if I know. All the Admiral and Captain Hilfer told me was that they needed someone to help safeguard the future. And here I am. Can't say they haven't got a sense of humor. Of course, some of you might be wondering what good a pirate is on dry land in the middle of the sodden snow of all places. Well, me and my crew will do whatever needs doing, so let's set sail, or however the saying goes on airships. Yes? Here's some scales. So, these are the famed warding scales. Enough for me and my men, I see. Under normal circumstances, I would not be allowed to travel outside of the Twelveswood. The Elder Seedseer, however, has granted me special permission. She has bid me lend my magics to the people of Garlemald while learning all I can of their ways. In so doing, I will come closer to understanding myself and my place in the world, or so she says. I say it is past time our allies benefited from the power at a Seedseer's disposal. Some bemoan that we hide our light under a bushel, and I intend to address that criticism. We heard it would be cold in Garlemald, so we came prepared. Oh, the talismans! We are to keep these close at all times, yes? I will see that no one misplaces theirs. Ah, and before I forget, I have a message from Hien. In distant lands, in times of strife, together stand, together fight. In darkness shines the light of life. I hope I have done his words justice. Doma, like much of Othard, has been plagued by the towers. Yet, while he could not be here, he wished to express his shared conviction. Hien and Ugiri labor without rest to unite the people, and with their aid will we keep the enemy at bay. And we of the Steppe and the Eastern Alliance will repay their efforts by ending this war. You have a warding scale for me too? I guess so. Thank you for this, and for going to such incredible lengths for the sake of my people. Though I have little to offer in return, I would impart some advice if I may. You have been told by many to wear the cold of Ilsebard, and I cannot stress enough that this is no token warning. I will be distributing specially made warming tinctures, courtesy of the Alchemist Guild, but understand that they are no substitute for proper protection. I leave the provisioning of said protection to your discretion. Now, let us proceed to the Alamegan Quarter. While you make your final preparations, I will have the pilots ready the airships. This is our last chance to make ready before we set forth. You needn't worry about Urianger and I. We still have what we wore in Garlemald before. Estinian claims to be quite warm and toasty beneath his armor, and since he spent a fair bit of time up north recently as well, I have no reason to doubt his words. Most of the others will be borrowing Grand Company stock. The rest of you could do likewise, I suppose, provided you're not overly concerned with style. Not to put too fine a point on it, but I wouldn't be seen dead in one of those ridiculous overcoats. If only I had time to find something to my liking. Hark! Is that the cry of scions in need of a tailor I hear? But how? I have my ways. Oh yes, indeed. You thought you could sneak off to Ilsebard without telling me? Ha! Nothing escapes my notice. Now, you will wear these garments I've made for you, whether you like it or not. You never cease to amaze. But why do you need a new outfit as well? Wait, are you coming with us? What? No, of course not, silly. It's all in the name of fashion. Rather, the pursuit of the highest quality fashion. Besides, how can I expect others to wear my creations if I've never worn them myself? I did have one other thing to share. Ergmus and Blumwida have finally returned from assignments in faraway lands. They'll be staying at the Rising Stones for a while to keep an eye on events through Eorzea. Since they'll be running things back at headquarters, I was wondering if I could lend a hand in Sharlayan? Oh, why not? You can keep Kryl company in the Valdesian Annex. Yes, we'd love to have you there. And I heard Ergmus and Blumwida did a fine job carrying on in our stead while we were lying comatose. With them in charge of the Rising Stones, we've nothing to worry about. My thoughts exactly. Also, while I'm confident you won't go collapsing again because a certain someone who shall remain nameless isn't in a position to transport your souls to another world, if anything similarly disastrous were to happen, I'll be well positioned to do something about it. Anyway, I've got a few things to take care of, and then I'll make my way to Sharlayan. I really do hope these new clothes are enough to keep you warm in Garlemald. It's not much, but it's the only thing I can do for you other than pray for your safe return, which I will, every day. Let's not keep the contingent waiting any longer. Here are your winter woolies, handcrafted by yours truly. Oh, just the coat in the armory chest. All right. And this is where we'll leave it for today. I think we'll finish up here. We'll pick back up on Final Fantasy Saturday morning and continue the story there. Tomorrow, feel free to join us for Infinite Undiscovery. We'll be continuing our compulsive mode playthrough on Infinity mode and seeing how far we can get on that one tomorrow. But we will be back all weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for Final Fantasy XIV, continuing our story, venturing forth into Garlemald. So I hope you all have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Thanks for joining us. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.